Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to also welcome you to the UAE AI Camp, a great initiative by the Ministry of AI and the Office of AI of the UAE. I'd like to thank my colleague, Marwa, for the introduction. If we can just have a few house rules, if you guys don't mind, if we can have everyone's camera switched off and on mute, just to ensure that the network is good. I can see that we have a good number of participants of about 250. So again, it shows the popularity and the interest in the concepts of blockchain. Just again, to give you maybe an outline of where this conversation or where this talk is going to go today. I try to keep things as casual as possible. I'm not here to bore you guys with the definitions and mathematical and programming languages. Again, I know that the crowd is very diverse, so we just want you guys to come with the basic idea out of it. This is again objectively, or the objective of at least the UAE AI summer camp. So if you guys can walk out even when understanding 10% of what is explained or discussed today on a bigger idea, or I would say on a macro level, for that it's a win-win situation. The voice, can you guys hear me clearly, just to confirm? All right. Yes. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Because I just saw some notification. Just make sure that you guys have also your Zoom connected to your audio so that the voice is clear. Having said that, I'll probably just give you guys quickly an introduction about myself. Of course, I work with Dubai Police in the virtual asset sections. So we specialize in doing researches and investigations and development of R&D and technology when it comes to the space of blockchain. That being said, myself, I am a graduate, or I hold at least a master's in digital currencies and blockchain from the University of Nicosia. It's a specialized university and the only one that did the course in blockchain in Cyprus, Nicosia. That being said, I also hold a degree in finance and a degree in mathematics from physics from King's College London. So if also there's some students that want to ask some academic questions or want some advice on their careers later on, I'll be more than happy to answer that or give them the mic towards the end of the call. So again, as a nutshell, I know I'm limited with more or less 1 hour. I'll try as much as I can to emphasize and talk about the aspect of blockchain and the storyline behind it. But again, if we're not able to cover everything, I'm more than happy to discuss it on another session. And as well, just to remind you all that there's another session also being held this Thursday that's going to be talking about demystifying the concept of Bitcoin. That being said, let's start. So for those who haven't heard about blockchain or never heard about the concept of blockchain, but why is it so important today, and the leadership that, or in the vision that the leadership is growing for the government of the UAE, for the aspects of government services, comes back down to a fundamental story or an idea that was created by an individual called Satoshi Nakamoto. For those who don't know him, Satoshi Nakamoto could be a guy, could be a woman, could be an organization, could be many aliens, who knows, from Mars. There's many conspiracies about who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but it's an individual who came in 2009 and decided to come up with a concept of a currency or a payment system, to be very fair, called peer-to-peer payment system called Bitcoin. And while I'm not going to be talking a lot about the concept of Bitcoin today, but really on the fundamental technology idea behind it, he wanted to solve one key problem, and it is the problem of trust within our financial system. And just to maybe give you guys an example, for those that are over the age of 18 and hopefully have bank accounts and are getting money and paid in a job, for those that are still taking money from mom and dad, probably you could relay that question to them. The aspect of blockchain really came from the concept of the creation of Bitcoin, and how, if Sam has her hands up, I'll come back to you that shortly, and how we wanted to create a system where people could be able to transfer money or any asset or digital information, rather to say, from one person to another person without the need of a middleman or a financial institution or an intermediary between those two individuals. And that being said, he came up with this idea saying, all right, today, if I want to give money from Tariq to Marwa, for example, I still need to go to my bank. I still need to put an IBAN. I still need to go through a financial institution, a central bank, an intermediate process for me to be able to send that money to Marwa. Isn't there a better way how to do it? Is there a better way where I do not require these three individual institutions or parties to be involved? And he came up with the idea of creating the blockchain, which is the underlying technology of what supports Bitcoin. And with that, today, that simple idea, which again, it is very technical, and I'll give you guys some resources probably towards the end of the discussion for you guys to have. That basic simple idea is what creates today an industry which is over $1 trillion. An industry, where everyone is talking about blockchain concepts, cryptocurrencies, applications, and use for government, and NFTs also, for example. That being said, and the idea why we're doing all of this discussion with the UAE AI office and we're doing it with the government is to provide a very important idea to the people. Such great ideas, how can we use them to simplify or to help or to ease our day-to-day lives as individuals? And this is where the concept of the Dubai blockchain strategy and the Emirates blockchain strategy developed in the UAE to see how we can replace legacy systems or improve these legacy systems by improving the technology that we are surrounding ourselves. So for example, today we have government departments that have multiple use cases in the areas of blockchain. And I'm going to touch on a very simple example also, and this is a personal one with me. But for example, today we have the land department that has the blockchain, or they have used blockchain technology, or what we prefer to call DLT, distributed ledger technology, and the certification of the land ownership papers. So that today, every land title deed, if you have a small QR code down, you can scan it and you can find your property or the property details on the blockchain. You can find the same. Now what we're doing, for example, in Dubai Police, we're developing a better system on where we can create the good conduct certificate on the blockchain, where you can directly scan that document and it gets updated. So you no longer need to request that, for example, every time that you need to apply for a job. We're also working, for example, on other technologies or other applications, and where we can have vehicle history also on the blockchain and jointly with the RTA. So these are these great and simple ideas out there that is effectively trying to solve a key problem, the problem of being able to audit and validate that information. That being said, if we can achieve that from a technical perspective, we're always saving time and saving time and human hours that is being put directly to do a certain process flow of work. We're also saving time in terms of money, and we're saving time and cost on papers. Because in the end of the day, we all know the fact if you go to a certain government department or you apply for a job, they will tell you, well, you need to bring us, your passport copy, your passport copy, your Emirates ID, your documents, passport, of all of these documents that you kind of need to apply for certain government services. That being said, with the implementation of blockchain, such changes or such improvements can change effectively on how we operate or transact from an application of a government use case. Again, I don't want to go into the technical parts because I know some people putting messages on the chat, but from another simpler aspect, and just to get a little bit on the crowd, I think I'm going to give a bit of a similar example. Again, this is very casual, so I want to make sure that everyone is kind of on the same level of knowledge. But for example, that being said, for example, if today I want to apply for a job, again, I'm trying to give examples on how we can solve these problems using blockchain technology. If, for example, today I want to apply for a job in the UAE, or I want to apply for a level of education, one of the challenge for every single student in the UAE, whether they're a UAE national or expat, they need to get their certification certified by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Education. How is blockchain? I'm going to be reading a question. How can blockchain create, every university certificate has to be able to have a certification from the university that they've studied, or to validate that that university degree is 100% equivalent to that. So I'll give you a personal example that I tend to share, is that when I graduated from the University of Nicosia back a few years ago, one of the challenges, as every other student who studied overseas, had to get their documents certified by a respective authority. For example, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of MOFA, and all of these processes. That usually takes a lot of time and requires a lot of stamp. And just to give you guys maybe an example, let's just share a little bit the screen on this aspect. If I can find the document very quickly. We got about 300 people. So I hope my screen is being shared publicly, but this should give you guys an example on how blockchain can change a lot of the information. Today, if we go to the University of Nicosia, the university which I graduated from, and if I scan my degree, I can find it on the blockchain of the university. Of course, they've used the Bitcoin protocol, a legacy system for that. But nevertheless, in the same time, when I graduated from there and I had to come back to the UAE, they required me to take all these stamps to validate my university degree. So, for example, I needed a stamp from the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Education in Cyprus. I needed to get a stamp from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, of course, in Cyprus, and I needed to get also a stamp from the Notary Public Services in Cyprus. Upon finishing all of that, I also needed to get a stamp from the UAE Embassy in Cyprus, as well as MOFA in the UAE. Even though my certificate today is available on the blockchain. That being said, can this process be easily implemented as a technology? Can this process be simplified by using the blockchain? Yes. The other way is that, for example, the UAE government would say, okay, once we are recognizing this technology and once we're implementing it within our process flow of technologies, or our process flow of government services, we're able, for example, to validate this degree directly on the blockchain, the same that can be said for all the other universities. So with that, there's also another initiative that's happening now also in the UAE, in which they're trying to convert a lot of these educational certifications into the blockchain to ease the challenge, of course, for people that need to access or have these services or documentation certified. And by the way, just to give you guys an example, the process that took me to get this certified was almost 6 months. So imagine the challenge that people have, or individuals, when they want to apply for a new job, or they want to get promoted, for example, with their university education. That same process or that amount of time can be taken in order to get this done. The same is said for those that are studying from overseas. And I can give you guys a more simpler example or another use case where the technology is being looked at more aggressively, is the concept or the understanding of vaccinations for COVID, for example. Today, it's very difficult, I think, for international passengers coming from specific countries, without naming them, to validate their certifications for COVID-19. So the question is, will today, example, the World Health Organization be able to develop a blockchain use case in which they can say that we're going to have the COVID or PCR tests or vaccination in a global database, which can be certified for people to have the ability of free movement? And with those ideas or those examples that I'm just giving, is really to understand how can blockchain be used other than the concept of which is commonly known between us today or commonly discussed other than cryptocurrencies on a very high and macro level. I'm just going to go very quickly through the questions. Again, I'm just trying to do questions every like 20 minutes, but How is blockchain impacting the cybersecurity aspect? As we have heard, they're interlinked. All right, so this is a question from, sorry, I don't have the full name, but Samara. Okay, because blockchain uses a higher level of encryption, again, and depending on which protocol we're discussing, but for example, Bitcoin uses SHA-256. It is very difficult, okay, so for the non-technical guys, to be able to hack, let's say, the blockchain. Fundamentally, for the reason because any change of information from an integrated block will change the information on the previous blocks. So that's one of the challenges that's there. But I'm going to give you guys an example for right now, probably just after answering a few questions that can show this. Can blockchain reduce data breaches and protect data privacy? Yes, it can, undoubtedly, and it can change a lot of things in terms of how we're sharing and data. But for that, there's a very interesting project called, actually I don't want to market any project, but there's a very interesting project today that they're developing in which they're trying to monetize digital assets of individuals. Means that today when you go online and you go on Google or you go on Facebook or you go on all of these big tech websites, a lot of them are collecting your personal information from your email, name, mobile number, your search history, and your browser history. There's a technology that's being converted in which the technology is allowing individuals to protect their data directly by tokenizing it, in the sense that my data, instead of companies benefiting from it and they're able to make revenue and money out of it by selling targeted ads to you as an individual, can decide to monetize sharing your data with those companies. In that sense, rather than Facebook taking your data example for free, today there's a technology that's existing in the market. I don't want to mention it or market them, but in which you can sign up with them and also be able to provide your information as rent or sale to those companies, or give them the rights to use it. There's also such projects that are being used for medical research. So for example, there's a very big database today where you can share your medical records without your name, of course, and companies that use that data for research purposes can go into it and research on how it's being used, research and being rewarded for them being used. I'm just going to go through quickly the questions again. How do you offset the cost and energy required versus the benefit that it provides? What would the cost implementation versus the benefits? Okay, I'm not sure if you're talking about the mining concept of mining as cryptocurrencies, or you're trying to talk from the cost on when to implement such technology. Probably taking the cost. There's a very interesting diagram by World Economic Forum. They've done it. I'll probably share that with you guys on the screen. But again, it doesn't mean everything needs blockchain, because it really comes to the fundamental question on the data that's being used for that process, or the process flow of the audit of the information. And when I say data, again, the biggest commodity today, it's not oil, it's not gold, it's probably not Bitcoin, but it is the information of people and data that can be used in order to sell. Can be utilized either to sell as data points or to purchase those data points. I think this would be things. I'll share that with you guys. Do you think in the future every country will create a stable currency like USDT, or will there be a single worldwide stable percent? Hopefully, I think the last question that was on the CBDC cryptocurrency coins, which I'll answer. Sorry, Mara, I cut you off. May I resume, or there was something that you were talking about?
You may resume. I was just telling everyone that we do have a blockchain strategy. I will be sharing that publication on the chat, and I'm asking everyone to follow us on our social media platforms that I will share now in the chat as well. So YouTube, please follow us.
Sorry, guys. by the way, because I know there's a lot of different questions, and I'm trying to understand the difference of questions that are out there. But let me try to get through some of the questions, and I'll go back and share some of the higher level resources. That being said, in terms of central banks, will they be developing their own central bank currencies in parallel with the existing currency? Probably, maybe. But I also believe there is the very good case of blockchain as a technology replace the monetary system that we're currently using. So, for example, today in China, they're shifting to the digital RMB or the digital yuan, which is their currency, and they're implementing it through the use of blockchain technology, of DLT or distributed ledger technology, to be specific. That being said, even the UAE recently announced that the central bank are developing their own CBDC, or at least will be looking to develop their own central bank digital currency between the 2023 and 2026 in the upcoming years, because they're realizing the need for it as governments. Of course, with that, you stop money fraud, you stop fake currency, you improve the transfers of money between individuals. So for example, today in the UAE, if I'm transferring money from a friend to another friend, the same bank, it takes usually a day. If it's another bank, it's the next day. So even in Europe, I think they're using something called the SEPA system. Even that takes 30 minutes. It's not instantaneously. So with blockchain, that can change and allow economic prosperity, at least from a quicker perspective. It's 11:30. Again, I'll just go through the last few questions very quickly. Which framework we're using for blockchain, Hyperledger or any other? It depends on the use case. A lot of companies work around Hyperledger because they don't have to be linked with specific protocols such as Ethereum due to the gas fees or the fees that is used to transact. Where can I find the recorded episode? That probably be on YouTube. Decryption blockchain is now almost impossible because it takes a lot of time with binary computers. All right, but now there are many. Good question. Quantum computing. It's a very big topic. It might come out in the near future. It might not. But still, just to give you guys an example, in order for someone to be able to hack the Bitcoin network, for example, you would probably need to have enough computing power that's going to cost, if not a little bit above $50 billion. And I think it's very difficult to spend that kind of money just in order to be able to break the Bitcoin. I'm gonna just pause on the questions here for a few seconds, and I'm gonna just share some resources with you guys. So whoever is focusing, if you guys wanna probably screenshot a few of the things as I'm gonna be sharing, please feel free, or I'll share the links anyways on the chat. So just to give you guys a little bit more information, I'm also co-founder of Dubai Blockchain Center, which is in Emirates Towers in Area 2071. We work very closely, of course, with the UAE AI office. I'm just going to put that link right there on the chat. It has a lot of resources if you guys are interested, for example, to learn more about different kinds of technologies. There's some short videos where you can benefit from on the key topics and concepts. And of course, if you guys want to certify yourself, I think there's a small fee or a small partner fee with one of the education academies where you can do that. That being said, I also want to share something called the Anders Brown Word blockchain demo. It gives you an idea and understanding from those that are technical on how to use the concepts of encryption in 256 hashing, the concepts on how to take it to a block. I'm going to probably skim through this. Usually it takes a few hours to explain this, but effectively in your free time, if you guys want to play with it, please feel free. Again, just because I'm limited again by an hour. Usually this would take at least two other hours to explain. But for example, if I write I love Dubai, just to give you guys a quick understanding, I'll be able to create a different hash. And that hash is then taken and it's put into the block. So if I give you guys another example, or mine the block. So if I say I love Dubai and I mine it, I've now hashed that information or data. By the way, to have 4 zeros always in the beginning is quite a challenge. It means that the encryption level is a little bit usually higher. But again, if I take the same concept and I now put it into a concept of blockchain, and I put I love Dubai and I mine this information, I'm just going to show you very quickly, but I'll leave you guys the time, of course, with it. And I write here, I love Abu Dhabi, for example. And I mine this information. I know a lot of people are going to probably be lost a little bit right here, but I'm trying to just give you a quick level. It's actually taking a little bit more time than I expected. Okay, I love Abu Dhabi. So for example, now, because I've hashed both data points, if I change any information here, or let me just at least mine one more data just to show you. So if I mine the data tree, again, I'm mining this data. If I change any information, for example, here, and I put, or I love in Dubai, if I put just a number 1, the entire blockchain becomes unvalidated. So this is the whole idea about the concept of security. It is very difficult to say that I will change a previous information on the block because it will invalidate the entire technology behind it. Of course, I don't want to go through this in details, but again, if there's interest and there's specific interest, we'll make a physical class for those that are interested to learn the technical aspects. If not, you can have, I'll share this link with you guys on the chat group, just so that at least you guys on your own free time can understand a bit more about it. For those that ask me about when do we use the blockchain, there's a very nice diagram, and probably this is something economic form blockchain diagram, if I can find it. It's something that I would usually recommend to understand or to use if the question is to ask when do we use blockchain. So it's here's one of the good. So I'm just going to share this with you guys. Or see if we're gonna. I think this is one of the best diagrams that was developed in terms of understanding the concept of beyond the hype of blockchain. Where do we actually use the case of blockchain, and is it the right questions to ask? For example, in your business case, this is usually the basic. I would say whiteboard that I would recommend anyone to look at before understanding the use cases of implementing blockchain. I'm just again going to go through some of the questions very briefly. I know a lot of people might be a bit lost, but trust me, it is very difficult to explain blockchain in an hour. So I'm again trying to be very brief with it. But let me go very quickly. What use Ethereum blockchain or a Bitcoin blockchain? They're very two different use cases. It depends on your use case. FATF, AML, and other financial regulations are supportive or treat of Bitcoin chain, especially when encryption is involved. They are, by the way, for those who are interested from the AML perspective and FATF, there are guidelines on using virtual assets. Again, they're still developing it now, and there's recent guidelines that came out of it. But I'm more than happy to have an overall discussion with Amir on it and more details if you're interested. Using blockchain, getting data will take time. How fast is it using the blocks? I just probably showed this demonstration to Russia and regarding to that. For the link of Andrew's works, but I recommend you to use it. Yes, mining. So that was a question for mining. Just for everyone to have an understanding, not all blockchains require physical devices to be able to mine or validate data. So Bitcoin works on something called proof of work. But again, Ethereum now, for example, is moving from proof of work to proof of stake. And there's different protocols that can be used to develop the use case, for example. So it really depends on the use case that you guys want to develop. Blockchain is basically simplifying process and reducing timelines, which is excellent in terms of servicery. But the question, does simplifying process at times raises audit risk? And opposite to Asia Al-Hadidi, with blockchain, it is very easy to be able to audit information and much faster. So one of the use cases, for example, that is being used in the Department of Finance in Dubai is they are developing the settlements or payments of settlements through blockchain. Not as a currency again, but the concept of being able to settle and receive the payments between the government's departments. That being said, it saves months of work in terms of audit because the information is updated instantaneously on the system without the need to go back to complex accounting mechanism to validate that information or to validate that key aspects of it. So again, I'm just going through very much questions. If there's
Tariq, if we can just take a few questions from the people who want to speak.
Yes, please go ahead.
I think Muhammad Ali has been raising his hand for a long time. Muhammad?
Hi Marwa, hi Tariq. First of all, thank you so much again, Marwa, for allowing me the chance to speak. And Tariq, brother, it's an awesome presentation. So thank you for this. So my question is that how we can integrate AI and blockchain together to create applications, and is Dubai Police is using any of the application? If you can give an example that how AI and blockchain are playing a key role in helping people of Dubai. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your question. Just to respond to that, artificial intelligence and the concept of AI and its use is effectively, right? Let's take it effectively being able to use key data to process predictable, let's say, actions by systems in that way, or to avoid further human interactions, to allow systems to be able to make, their own conclusions without the need of human interaction. That is fundamentally what is AI. Now, when we talk about blockchain, it's fundamentally being able to secure, certify, and validate that data. Now, in order for me to effectively use AI in terms of any service, I need to ensure that the data is validated and it is audited in the sense that it does not have false information or false data points in order for the AI systems to make the most effective decisions with minimum error. That being said, I might not necessarily talk about the examples or the systems that are currently being developed by police, but I can say, for example, again, I'm just giving a very brief example out of my head. It's not necessarily to reflect that it is a specific use case, but let's say that your criminal records are on the blockchain. It's currently shared with worldwide law enforcements in the world, or it's with Interpol. You coming in directly into the, for example, or that system being connected, the AI system will be able to validate the information that it is true, and will also be able to give me a prediction that's saying Mr. John Smith is in the UAE and Mr. Nasser holds previous criminal records. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are a criminal at the time of entering the UAE, but it probably gives me a prediction understanding of the risks of behavior that you may have in the UAE. For example, being able to connect those criminal records saying that, okay, he was a aggressive driver, for example, in Europe or in America, and he had this kind of fines. Those systems will be able to say that if Mr. John Smith rents a car in the UAE, the possibility or the risks for him of having a high accident may be there. So this gives maybe a very kind of a small example on how those two methodologies can be related. I hope I answered that question. If there's someone else, Muhammad Ali.
Your question. Anyone else would like to speak to Tariq or ask a question? Now is your chance. You can use the reactions button to raise your hands. Tariq, there was a request to connect with you. What is the best way to connect with you?
That is a good question. I'm not on social media, so you won't find me on social media. But for those that are interested, you can contact the AI office. I usually spend at least once a week around Emirates Towers, so I'll be more than happy to sit with you guys at Emirates Towers and get your feedback on it. Of course, just to give you guys a quick idea that also the Dubai Police is the first organization in the region to implement a dedicated section for virtual assets in terms of risk policy, R&D, and technology development. So we are developing our own team internally, and we are seeing the great benefits to use that in the long term, not only on government services, but also from a policy and technology idea. And that being said, guys, I know Marwa is limiting me with an hour of time, but I'm more than happy, of course, with different opportunity to do maybe a more specific, really in-depth technical course on blockchain. If there is interest, please share that on the social medias of the UAE AI camp, and I'll be more than happy maybe by end of August to set one up. But it might be a few hours long, so hopefully we don't bore you that much with it. There's another hands raised by PKP.
Yes.
If
yes.
he wants to speak.
Let me unmute you.
Hello, sir. Hi, ma'am. Tariq, sir, I would like to know which particular blockchain platform does Dubai Police use? Like, is it a complete private or is it a consortium blockchain? And also maybe, is it a public blockchain?
I can't disclose that information, but I can more than happy to say that we're looking at all kinds of technologies with for the best use case. I hope that my answer is as diplomatic as it sounds.
Anyone else would like to ask a question? I think Abdel Wasi has a question. Can you raise your hand to share the question? All the recordings are available on our YouTube channel. They will be posted later on today. I'll share the link to the channel now. Okay, we have a few questions. Reese, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Am I heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I have a question now. If hacking is a thing, right? It's a thing. Now, is it possible to hack a blockchain and get the key from it or something like that of that sort? It's because Bitcoin is stored in like an online wallet or something.
Okay, so let me respond.
Is it possible to is it safe?
All right, thank you for your question, Reef. Just respond accordingly. So look, in terms of the hacks that we hear on the news and read a lot about it, if your Bitcoins, for example, are stored in what we call a hard wallet and the private keys are with you exclusively and not with anyone else, it's very difficult to hack that wallet because you would still need to access the private key. However, of course, if you stored your private key, for example, in your email and your email got hacked by mistake and then someone were able to access that, then yes, you can retrieve those Bitcoins. That being said, example for exchanges that were, we see in the news that are being hacked. More recently, there was one in South Africa and one, I think, in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. They usually store the crypto in cold wallets specifically, so not necessarily on hot wallets. Sorry, and hot wallets and not in cold wallets. That being said, they are more likely to be hacked, yes. But of course, as best practice, if you are trading digital assets online, which I don't recommend or suggest you to do. This is purely just from a security advice or guidance, not to store your digital assets in any digital exchange generally. That being said, it's important to always have best practices when you are interacting with any organization online. The same I can say with not sharing your password for your credit card or your CCP numbers online. I hope that answers the question.
I see that we have a lot more questions. We can take a few. Ravindra, please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, hi. It was actually a fantastic session. And Actually, I have come up with one idea and a kind of a solution for integrating AI blockchain for criminal investigation, automatic weapon identification, and stuff like that. Would it be possible to kind of meet up sometime and discuss?
Yeah, I don't mind, Ravindra. Dubai Police is always open for ideas. We also have a platform, actually. For those that are interested and you guys want to share it, let me get you the link. It's called innovate.dubai police. And it's also one of the approaches to bring up any ideas within Dubai Police, to suggest for Dubai Police. So if you can just give me a few minutes, I'll share that with you on the chat and for anyone else. It's innovation.dubaipolice.gov.ae. For any student, by the way, if you guys have ideas or you guys want to solve one of the challenges, and there's also financial rewards, by the way. So I think some financial rewards are for 25,000 dirhams if you solve them, for example, in the platform. So this is also one of the best ways to interact with Dubai Police. Also, if you guys want to share this link with anyone else, please feel free, with your colleagues, your students. It is one of the initiatives that we are doing here at Dubai Police. And I think there's, at the moment, there should be a blockchain challenge coming up. But actually, let me very quickly share my screen. This should show you guys an idea. I hope my screen is clear. So you guys can see the different challenges about reducing traffic accidents for public transport, reducing traffic accidents facilities for motorcycle deliveries, raising awareness of dangers of drug abuse and online extortion and cyberbullying. I think some of the deadlines passed, but they're still open. They haven't closed them. They're allowing the opportunity for more to come in. And again, this gets updated regularly. So I'd recommend you to log in, create it, and hopefully see how you can come in. I hope that answers your question, Ravindra, and more.
We will take the last question from Russia.
Hi, thank you for the presentation first. I have two questions. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Please go ahead, Russia.
How much time, or it's take time to generate the blocks in blockchain, and what it is how much time, or it take time to retrieve data from a blockchain? The second one, which field the blockchain is applied worldwide, like for example healthcare, or which field for now is applied blockchain?
So thank you for the question. I mean, in terms of the blocks, it depends really on the protocol. Some blockchain protocols will be a few minutes, some will be a little bit longer. That being said, there's no reflective rule or term of rule, depends on the programming language and the use case that you are using for that. In terms of use cases, I think the most use case at the moment for blockchain is validity of documents. So certifications is a key thing that's being used mostly, but there's so many other technologies that are coming up there and so many countries that are doing multiple use cases on that. I'm seeing some questions are being repetitive. I shared some links on the chat for blockchaincenter.ae, as well as for another link called the Anders website. I'm just going to put that again on the chat for everyone. There's a lot of resources there that if I didn't focus on it today, I'd invite you to go ahead. But again, if there is demand for more technical courses that you guys would like to probably participate in, physical, of course, that will be, email UAE office and we'll probably try to arrange it for you guys. Again, the objective in the end of the day, as I said in the beginning of the discussion, I know this is 1 hour, so it's very limited with what I can transfer in terms of knowledge. But my objective is for all of you to at least walk out from this session with an idea of what blockchain is fundamentally in its basic meaning, but as well as an idea on where can I go tomorrow and say, hey, what happens if I use blockchain to make this service better? Can I use blockchain for a specific thing that no one thought about, is effectively what I want you guys to walk out with today.